Hello, family members. I hope you're having a nice day today. I want to talk to you today about something I've been thinking about for quite some time, actually. And, you know, I don't, I think it's more relevant now than it was when I first started thinking about it. So let's get into it. Am I a gamer? I mean, that seems like a kind of a silly question, but like, I don't know if I would be what counts as a gamer. I mean, I play video games like all the time, but they're mostly casual games. Occasionally I'll throw in an RPG of some sort or whatever, but I'm not very coordinated, and so, I like casual games. I like idle games and the kind of games that people don't necessarily think of as video games so much. And I remember my cousins having an Atari. I remember playing on Nintendo and Mario and all of the early games. I remember that stuff. I was there. I saw it. I didn't really like play all of them because again, I'm not very coordinated, but I tried to play Halo with my brother and I could not figure out the controls. It was really, really pathetic, honestly. And so, most of the time I just watched him play because we didn't have Twitch back then. We didn't have YouTube streaming. If you wanted to see a Let's Play, you basically had to be there physically. So, and he was actually relatively good. So watching him was a lot better than me trying to struggle through the games themselves. So, I got to watch a lot of the games. I know the stories, I know like the mechanics, and I know a lot about gaming history. I've watched like all the Summoning Salt videos and Carl Jobst and a lot of people who gaming history and video game history channels. I find them intriguing and I watch them a lot, so am I a gamer? I don't think so. Because gamer, I don't think just means somebody who likes to play video games or has interest in the history of video games or, anything related to that. I think that gamer has become a subculture. And that subculture has become increasingly influential. And I think that we need to examine that because you can't just be a gamer by liking games. In order to be a gamer, I think you kind of have to have certain beliefs, certain ideas, certain values. And I think that some of that can lead people down dangerous paths. But I also think it's kind of interesting because then you look at people like, say, Elon Musk and him, trying to pretend like he was a gamer. Or maybe he was a gamer, but, I mean, obviously he's not doing the things that he says that he does. Like, he likes to exaggerate, obviously. But, I mean, occasionally at least he plays video games, right? He wants people to believe he's the best, though. Like, it's important for him. It's part of his identity to be a gamer. I've watched a couple of videos from more middle aged creators, more like myself, who have talked about video game players, gamers, people who made that their identity when they were young men, kind of aging out but not knowing how to move on. They centered a lot of their identity in being a gamer and being a part of that community. And they built a found family around that community that is important to them, that is like, it's not frivolous. It's meaningful to them in their lives, but they don't know how to find something that suits their lifestyle more. And you get this friction of these kind of old school gamers who this is their identity, and they want games to be like they were when they were a kid, and they want, you know, things to stay the same. And I think that's just midlife crisis. A lot of the people who are having that problem where they are just angry about, video games being different or diversity in games or anything like that, I think a lot of them are having like midlife crisis or quarter life crisis or something like that. And sort of existential dread. And that's understandable. We've put a lot of emphasis on youth and assign a lot of negativity to age. And, it's really hard when you're like, you realize you're not as viable anymore. You know what I mean? Like, you used to be a market that they cared to sell to, and now you're just kind of overlooked. You're not the new hotness anymore. It's not possible for you to, like, move the culture the same way or be part of that, you know. You're not on the cutting edge anymore. You've aged out of that. And when society makes that seem demeaning, I mean, honestly, that's true. Well, it's really hard to actually process that in a healthy way. And the thing that's funny to me is, although that's the narrative that you're not being sold to anymore, you're not on the cutting edge, you're not. To me, when you get into your 30s and 40s, so far, I feel like you have so much more perspective on things. You understand, if you've done any self-reflection, you understand yourself a lot better than you used to. You've been through some things and you've figured out how to get through and get to the other side. And I think usually it's worth it. It's a nice trade-off. Like, you might get to be young and cool when you're, in your teens and 20s or whatever. But you don't know anything either. And then, here you are in your, honestly, I think a lot of ways, the prime of your life. You get a lot of these millennials in their 30s and their 40s, they're just having like such a hard time transitioning to the point of life where they are. I mean, people are very afraid of their mortality, let's be honest. They want to deny it. They want to think they're going to live forever. I mean, I think, uh, not to go back to Elon Musk, but he's very relevant apparently recently. And him and his like delusions of having like a colony on Mars. Mars is not a place where people want to live long term. I don't know that it's a very good idea for us to put too many eggs in that basket. It does not have much of an atmosphere. It has no protection from the sun's radiation. So, I mean, you can't just go walking around on Mars. You would get like irradiated to death pretty quickly. It is an extremely hostile environment. And when and if there is some sort of human settlement on it, it will be more akin to Antarctica. Like, a scientific outpost, that the idea of people like living on Mars in Elon's lifetime is absurd. Absolutely absurd. But he has these dreams, very futuristic dreams, and thinks that we can move to Mars and live forever. I guess I don't know. I uh, I think it's kind of sad that the identity of gamer has become so calcified as to not be able to include everyone who likes games, because we at least have something in common, right? You know, the kind of games that I play may not be the kind of games that you play, but I do have interest in the culture and the history of gaming, but I'm not really a part of it. It's sort of as an outsider looking in. I I find it interesting the way that we have these sort of like culture war issues kind of play out through consumerism. And right now we're seeing all these people who are like boycotting these different companies because of everything that's going on politically in the world that is too depressing to even think about right now. Oh my gosh. Anyway, I mean, I don't mind going along with it, but it's trying to send a message with consumerism. I just don't think that it's as easy as people think it is. You know, there are a lot of people in this country. And even if all of the like minded people got together and actually fully boycotted something for a few days, it's not going to be more than just a blip on their radar. And I don't think that that blip on the radar is going to balance out against like currying favor with the burgeoning authoritarian government taking over our country. So, you know, I don't really have much hope that the problems that we're dealing with can be solved by consumerism, what we buy and what we don't buy. I used to think that. I did used to think that, it was important to kind of send a message by what you buy and what you don't buy. And I do try to do things like buy I use recycled toilet paper, toilet paper that comes from recycled material. And I try to support the market for more ethical products if I can, but I know that is not really going to make much of a social change. I mean, I would need like everybody to do that, and that's just not going to happen. People are just not that willing to go out of their way to do things like that. Even though, I mean, there's lots of good ethical products out there. I mean, freaking Hank Green just launched his like cleaning supply, ethical cleaning supplies business. I'm like, that guy has too many businesses. But hey, that's a product that people should want. Whether or not they do, I can't say, but I feel for the guys who've fallen out of love with gaming, that just don't get that same joy and are frustrated that they can't recapture that. I understand that. I remember when I had things that I liked to do, like run around with my friend who was in a rock and roll band and going to little local shows and going to the beach and doing all these things that I don't do anymore or can't do anymore. Yeah, I understand that resentment. I understand that I could, if I tried to do some of the things that I used to do and enjoy, it would be a miserable experience for me. So I can relate to that frustration. I really can. It it's not something that society really gives us much guidance on. It's just not something people talk about. Aging is something that people fight against instead of learn how to deal with. Which is so funny because if you're lucky enough to get old, you will eventually get old. It's sort of unavoidable. It is a common trope. You see people who spend lots of money and time trying to keep a youthful appearance that they no longer naturally have, to mixed results. Some people, it works out better for them than others. I mean, share. Just share. I don't want to say anything more than that. But I I think that we need to be a little more thoughtful and spend a little more time, like, helping all of us navigate, you know, be changing who you are. I think there's some like weird idea that you've got to be the same person you always were, and that there's some resentment that you aren't the same cool, fun person that you used to be, that you're someone more seasoned, more capable, maybe, but maybe less outrageous, less exciting. But society needs us all. And we need to be able to enjoy our lives, be healthy and happy. That's the thing. You can change, it's allowed. If your hobby used to be gaming and it just doesn't hit the way it used to, you can have a different hobby. It's okay. Become a hiker, go camping, build model trains, whatever, find something that speaks to who you are now and gives you that spark of joy. Because though what we enjoy changes as we age, as our life circumstances get more complicated, or just what we are physically capable of doing is just not the same anymore. It's all right. It's all right to just be who you are in the moment and not try to recapture who you were at some imagined better time. Because I bet you, if you could go back in time and talk to whatever, peak time you think you were the coolest or whatever, if you talk to that version of yourself, they would probably be telling you about a lot of problems they're dealing with too. Because you just don't remember the problems, the complications. The stuff that's good is the stuff that stays with you. And so it's easy to overvalue that time in your life because you've kept the good and let go of the bad, hopefully. And it seems more ideal than it actually was. And it's okay to change your relationship with video games. It's okay to go from, liking one sort of game to another kind of game. It's okay to keep some sort of involvement in the community, even if you're not playing games that much anymore, because it's your found family and you enjoy the discussions and the company. I think of Carl Jobs. That's a good example. He was a guy who came up, like a speed runner, but he also became a video game historian and investigative reporter and whatnot, he was able to find a way to still be part of the community, but he changed what his actual hobbies are. I bet he spends a lot of his time researching, and I know how enjoyable that can be. Trying to find the answers, solve a mystery. And, good for him. He gets to keep his community, his place in the culture, and find something that really suits him. And, maybe he plays games still, maybe he doesn't, but that doesn't matter. He can still be who he is as whoever that is changes through his life. It's okay. It's okay not to be who you used to be. It's okay to let go. It's okay to find new communities. I'm not a gamer because gamers are an insular group, and that very isolation is something that I worry about for them and for society. It's very easy when you get in an echo chamber to dehumanize the people outside of that chamber. And I think that, capital G gamers, as they say, I think that they do that. I do think there's a lot of dehumanization in that us versus them mentality. And I think it's kind of toxic. And I wonder if it doesn't harm their ability to have healthy relationships with their friends and family, maybe even romantic partners. It seems like there's a lot of cynical attitudes and just angst that is sort of concentrated and encouraged because you have a community there that feels like it is under attack and it needs to glom onto each other so that they can fight against this looming existential dread that they have displaced onto changing culture. That's not something that is just these modern gamers. I think that's something that happens a lot. I think if you look back at like the 50s and how resistant to the formation of the youth culture the adults of the time were, and how resistant they were to allowing the culture to change. And I think it's possibly that same looming existential dread. I think it's quite possibly the same thing, just over and over again. And we won't get better at it until we talk about it, until we acknowledge it, until we all learn how to cope and how to support each other better. Support systems are absolutely essential. Now, I talked about this in like my last video, so I don't want to stay on it too long, but adult friendships are absolutely vital because people need people. And we need to learn how to make those in healthy ways. I think that might be why sometimes people have affairs. So they don't know how to connect with anybody outside of a romantic context. And that's sad. I think it's wonderful that these, gamers have created a community and a brotherhood and a love for each other. They need that. They need that support system, but they also need that support system not to steer them in a toxic direction, a way that's going to hurt them. It's going to make them less happy and not the best versions of themselves. You know, they deserve to be able to support each other in a positive way. And I don't know if anyone has ever tried to show them how to do that. And when people talk about like positive masculinity, and we'll talk about like Fred Rogers or Steve Irwin or, Bob Ross, you'll notice they're all individuals. They don't seem to have people that they consider examples of positive masculinity. They're also showing them how to have positive friendships with their male peers and female peers and non-binary peers, of course. We need that. We need the Thelma and Louise for guys. And we need the modern Thelma and Louise, to be honest. We need to celebrate community. We need to form our communities. We need to support our communities. And gamers have part of that right. It's just unfortunate that it's not expressed in a healthy way all the time. Well, family members, I guess I've firmly established I'm not a gamer and never will be because I have boobs. They are nice. Okay, I'm being silly. I'll let you go, family members. You want to see a BB though? There is a BB right there. The dog. Alright, kids. Take care of yourself. Love you. Support your family. Found family or otherwise. Bye.